Parents who leave too much money for their children choke the evolutional development of self-created, self-earned success and happiness in their offspring. Even the brainy man must exercise ambition, or he does injustice to himself by crippling his faculties. By injuring himself he sets a bad example, and thus hinders the progress of humanity. That is why I agree with Mr. Henry Ford in helping people to help themselves, and not in humiliating, slave-breeding charity. It is only by having ambition, and crowning it with the ideal of service, that materially ambitious people will find a spiritual reason for making money. A balance of Oriental and Occidental traits is needed. Oriental peoples have, as a rule, been spiritually inclined, taking life philosophically and cultivating a natural tendency toward contemplation. Of course, many Orientals have used their leisure for indulging in laziness instead of working for spiritual realization, but on the whole they have an awakened spiritual perception. Our Western brothers have devoted their time predominantly to developing the material and intellectual sides of life. But they are often too busy even to enjoy the fruits of their labor or to know the taste of peace, relaxation, and the bliss of meditation. They become enslaved by less important engagements and forget their highest engagement with the blissful ideal life of God contact. Because of the extensive use of machinery, Westerners have this advantage over their Eastern brethren. They can use the time thus saved to advance more in the deeper studies of life. Business activities and money are meant for the comfort and betterment of man. He should not allow blind greed for them to rob him of his happiness and the achievement of higher goals. 6 full days and nights of machine-like existence, and part of one day Sunday for the cultivation of one's inner self, is not a balanced way of life. The week should be allotted to work, amusement, and spiritual culture. 5 days for money-making, 1 day for rest and amusement, and at least 1 day for introspection and inner realization. In the Western world, life is altogether too fast. The Orient tends to go to the other extreme. A balance needs to be struck. Every man must have some free time to find himself. 1 day a week, Sunday, is not enough because it is his only holiday and he wants it for rest and is too tired to meditate. With a 5-day working week as proposed by Henry Ford, people could use Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday for getting away from the noisy city environment and thus increase their longevity. The Chicago chief of police reported a study that says man's longevity could be increased by 11 years if the city noises were cut out and man's nervous system calmed down thereby. Almost every family in America can afford an automobile of some kind, and with it they can get out of the cities on weekends and refresh themselves in the peaceful retreats of nature, living the double life of a hermit in the woods and a warrior in the field of worldly activity. Learn the art of living rightly. Since ultimate wisdom, knowing everything that can be known by the maximum use of human reason, is the human goal, then why not learn the art of living rightly? People lose their balance and suffer from money madness and business mania only because they never had the opportunity of culturing habits of a balanced life. It is not our passing thoughts or brilliant ideas, but our everyday habits that control our lives. There are some very conscientious businessmen who make millions without being irregular or nervous, but there are others who become so engrossed in making money that they cannot think of anything else and do not wake up from their obsession until something terrible happens to them, as sickness or loss of all happiness. We must begin with the children as well as with the adults. The plastic mind of the child can be molded into any shape with the cooperation of self-disciplined, reformed adults. Desired habits can easily be created in children because the will to perform is mostly free except for a few innate tendencies. Adults have to battle and expel old habits in order to lodge new good ones. But all habits, whether in children or adults, must be cultivated through the medium of spontaneous willingness. In training children in a balanced life or in habits of paying equal attention to the earning of money and to the acquisition of spiritual happiness, the time and method of training has to be considered. Many psychologists say that the later periods of life are but the repetitions of the training one received between the ages of 2 to 10 or 15. Spiritual sermons inspire the minds of children to better action, but that is all. Actual practical discipline is necessary for roasting the seeds of past life prenatal habits lodged in the subconscious and superconscious minds. This can only be done by directing inwardly the cauterizing power of the electricity of concentration. Children ought to be brought up with a spiritual ambition to make money only for the sake of service. Modern children are mostly reared in a wrong atmosphere where money-making is the goal, so they try to get rich quick, even by the hold-up method. Their reason argues that if making money by any means is the goal, then why shouldn't hold-up methods prevail? It lies in the hands of today's adults to uplift the citizens of tomorrow by educating the children into a balanced life. As long as the adults will remain intoxicated with a one-sided material life, so long will the children follow that example and their hopes will remain unfulfilled. To save the future of the world by saving the children, the modern adult must wake up and cultivate a balanced life of spiritual as well as material habits. Leading a balanced life. Many heads of concerns manage to work only 5 days a week from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon and generally take Saturdays and Sundays off. They have some poise, more home life, but they spend most of their free time in playing golf and going dancing and to the movies, instead of giving some time to spiritual culture. In order to lead a balanced life, adults must educate themselves to realize that business ambitions should be only for making ourselves and others happy. Without this ideal, overstrenuous business activity produces nervousness, lack of harmonious social qualities, miserliness, greed, and disrespect for all good principles. By realizing the true purpose of business activity, service for the benefit of others as well as oneself, life can be really happy. I think Mr. Henry Ford has inaugurated a new era in spiritualizing business life by proposing a 5-day work week. The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. Jesus wanted people to have Sundays as the Sun's Day, or Wisdom's Day, to culture soul knowledge. But when people are so busy all week, they want Sundays for relaxation and amusement, instead of giving it to God and introspection. The clergymen and priests who are opposed to having movies and diversions on Sundays ought to sympathize and cooperate with Henry Ford's plan. The hard-working man could utilize Saturday for relaxation, gardening, wholesome amusement. Then he would feel free and glad to use Sunday wholly and solely for attending religious services and for spiritual self-discipline through practicing the techniques of concentration and meditation for attaining inner peace and God communion. I know many prominent, intelligent businessmen who in their heart of hearts are discontented and are craving for God and wisdom, but they are helplessly carried away by their work habits and by too many social engagements. Their highest engagement with God, truth, higher studies, and more home life is sacrificed for money-making or useless socializing. So it is extremely necessary that truth-loving real-world patriots should cooperate for making Saturday a day for amusement and relaxation, and Sunday a day exclusively for culturing habits of meditation, association with good persons, good principles, and the highest good, God bliss within. As certain training is needed for engaging in the art of war, so does our engagement in battling with active life. Untrained warriors are soon killed on the battlefield, so also persons untrained in the art of preserving their inner peace are quickly riddled by the bullets of worry and restlessness in active life. Man's great need is to find more time to enjoy nature, to simplify his life and his imaginary necessities, to enjoy the true needs of his existence, to learn to know his children and friends better, and most of all, to know himself and the God who made him. Chapter: Probing the Core of Nervousness. Everyone has at times been nervous, more or less, without knowing why. I may shake this piece of cloth and say it is nervous, but what is making the cloth move? When I cease moving my hand, the cloth lies limp. You always blame other things for making you nervous, but never accuse yourself. Yet, it is you who make yourself nervous. 99% is your own fault. Restlessness, emotional excitement, concentrates too much energy in the nerves so that they begin to wear out. After years and years, the adverse effects of that nervousness begin to show. The nerves are very tough. God made them so because they have to last a lifetime, but it is necessary to give them proper care. When you stop overloading the nervous system, as when you are in deep sleep or a state of calmness in meditation, you are not nervous at all. In meditative ecstasy, the nerves become highly rested and rejuvenated. Healthy nerves essential for a healthy body. Nerves are like wires connecting all parts of a factory. If the wires become worn or burned out, then the whole factory or certain affected areas of it cannot function. Similarly, the nervous system enlivens all parts of the body, including the perceptive, cognitive, and responsive functions of the five senses. If the nerves are destroyed, then transaction with the world is also destroyed. There are two systems of nerves: the central nervous system in the brain, medulla and spinal cord, and out of that the peripheral system, which connects the nerve centers to the different organs of the body and carries energy to them. The nervous system sends sensations to the brain, enables the brain to process them, and then reacts upon the brain's interpretation of those stimuli. During the primitive growth of the embryonic brain, the first formative stage of the nerves is like liquid, which then gradually becomes fibers that eventually grow into nerves, tough superhighways for conducting energy from the brain to all parts of the body. The brain is the house of government. The 27,000 billion cells are the subjects. The nervous system that connects them all must be kept in proper working order. You may recall the paralyzing effect of the recent telephone strike. That is what can happen in your body. When the nerve telephones are paralyzed, they cannot convey their vital messages. For example, if the optical center in the brain is impaired, owing to wrong eating, disease, or strain, the nerves of the eyes are affected, and the eyes begin to grow weak. Examine yourself to see what makes you nervous. Most nervous diseases are due to overexcitation of the mind. These arise from many causes. Examine yourself to see if you are nervous, and then determine what it is that makes you nervous. When you get mad, for instance, you send tremendous volts of energy into the brain and the heart. Emotions such as anger and fear can so overload the nerves that they cause the body to malfunction, sometimes even stopping the heart and causing death. If you pass 1,000,000 volts of current through a small wire that can stand only a few volts, the wire will be burned out. Excitement means you are directing too much energy to a certain area and depriving other nerves of that life force. The man of calmness, on the contrary, keeps his nerves well fed with a balanced flow of energy so that no part of the body is detrimentally overloaded or depleted. Nervousness is the disease of civilization. I remember when some of us were driving up Pikes Peak in Colorado. Other cars were speeding past us on the steep, winding grade. I thought they were hurrying to get to the mountaintop in time to see the sun rise. To my great amazement, when we arrived, we were the only ones outside to enjoy the view. All the others were in the restaurant drinking coffee and eating donuts. Imagine! They rushed to the top and then rushed back, just for the thrill of being able to say when they got home that they had been there and had coffee and donuts on Pikes Peak. That is what nervousness does. We should take time to enjoy things, the beauties of God's creation, the many blessings of life, but avoid undue excitement, restlessness, and sudden emotions, which burn up the nervous system. Talking too much, including the habit of engaging in long conversations on the telephone, creates nervousness. Habitual twitching, such as drumming the fingers or moving the toes, burns energy in the nerves. Another cause of nervousness, though you may not be aware of it, is the noise of the radio or television going on for hours at a time. All sounds cause the nerves to react. A study conducted in the police department in Chicago showed that if human beings were not subjected to the bombardment of the sounds of modern living, which are especially harsh in cities, they could live years longer. Learn to enjoy silence. Don't listen to the radio or television for hours on end or have them blaring mindlessly in the background all the time. There is enough television, of saints and music of the spheres going on throughout the cosmos that you don't need to listen to canned music or watch canned pictures. Through the calmness of inner silence, learn to tune into God's wondrous cosmic programs. Learn to control your emotions. Another major cause of nervousness is unkind speech. Never gossip or talk against others. Be busy reforming yourself. Practice kind speech. Don't be quarrelsome. If your husband or wife gets angry and rouses your ire, take a little walk and cool off before responding. If he or she speaks sharply, don't retort in the same way. It is better to remain quiet until the temper has cooled down. Avoid being stubborn or patronizing, but at the same time refrain from involving yourself in a quarrel. Wait until you both have regained calm reason. Never let anyone rob you of your peace, and do not steal away the peace of others by your verbal misbehavior. The misuse of speech is one of the most injurious of all weapons. You may say something in anger or high emotion that you do not really mean, and then feel sorry afterward, but for 20 years or longer the other person remembers it. In this respect, memory is a bad thing. The power to remember is a blessing if used in the right way, but harmful if used as a repository of the bad things that have been done to us. If your wife screeches at you and you shout back, you will suffer twice as much, once from her harsh words and again from your own. You primarily harm yourself. By the time you get through, you will feel that there is nothing left of you. This is why there are so many divorces. Frankly, people should not marry until they have learned to have some control of their emotions. The schools should educate young students in this art, and in how to develop calmness and concentration. The American home is breaking up because these things are not taught, neither at home nor in the schools. How can two people who are habituated to nervous activity live together without almost destroying each other with their nervousness? In the beginning of a marriage, the bride and groom are carried along on the emotions of excitement and passion. But, after a while, when these inevitably start to wane, the true natures of the couple begin to come out and the quarreling and disillusionment set in. The heart requires true love, friendship, and above all peace. When through emotion peace is destroyed, it is a desecration of the bodily temple. A healthy nervous system is what will maintain in proper order all the bodily organs and feelings. And to keep the nervous system healthy, it is important to remain free from devastating emotions such as fear, anger, greed, jealousy. Cast off fear. What is there to be afraid of? Even a little bit of fear, such as senseless apprehension of the dark or worrying about things that might happen, affects the nerves more than you can imagine. Why dread even death? God allows it to happen to everybody, so it cannot be bad. That is a very consoling thought to hold on to. Death is just like a refreshing sleep, and you are not afraid of sleep, are you? Death is complete rest. God gives you death to release you from all of your troubles here, and then to provide you with a fresh start in a new incarnation. To be caught up in emotion is to forget God. To be caught up in fear, anger, greed, or any violent or impulsive emotion is to forget God. If your senses which govern your emotions are under your control, you are a saint. No one knows better than yourself whether you are a master of your senses or a slave to them. Remember, anything that overrules your self-control leads your nervous system to destruction. The greedy man eats, and the man of self-control eats. One eats for the well-being of his body, and the other overeats for sensual gratification. If one's love is concentrated more on God and less on the senses, then all sensory abuse will be overcome. When tempted, pray to the Lord, make thyself more tempting than temptation. No matter how you test me, Lord, I shall cling to you. When your nervous system is filled with peaceful, loving thoughts of God, your nerves become recharged with His power. Krishna said, when the feeling chitta is absolutely subjugated and is calmly established in the self, the soul, the yogi, thus devoid of attachment to all desires, is spoken of as the God united. Movie stars and other professional entertainers are considered the beautiful people of America. But why are their personal lives so often in a shambles of unhappiness and multiple divorces? Most of them live too much on nervous energy concentrated in the senses. Overeating, promiscuous sex, the intoxication of wine and drugs, all produces pseudo-happiness. In God alone one finds fulfillment of all desires. In God alone one finds ever new joy, which can never be attained through the instrumentality of any of the senses. If you are in the grip of any abuse of the senses, and this means any one of them, continuously affirm your freedom. I am not enslaved by this habit. My love for God is supreme, greater than for anything else. Desire and attachment feed nervousness. Desire and attachment feed the disease of nervousness. By the time you have acquired the things you crave, you are worn out. Desireless non-attachment is freedom from the tyranny of enslavement to possessions. Everyone says how beautiful Encinitas is. I like it because on the altar of the horizon of the ocean and blue sky I see God. When the hermitage was given to me for 7 days I delighted in it. Then I gave it to God, inwardly free myself from all sense of possession. Now I enjoy it through the joy of others. All the things that India sadly lacked and that I had wished for her, I see you have here in America, but still you are not happy. Now I pray that India does not become too westernized. Both India and America express extremes. There needs to be balance, American civilization modified with the spirituality of India. Every nation wants the material advantages that America has. And the spiritual consciousness that every nation needs is found in India. I think that life in America is becoming more simplified, which is good. It takes too much time and energy to keep too many possessions in good order. The truth of the matter is that the more unnecessary necessities you have, the less peace you have, and the less you are possessed by possessions, the more happiness you have. The way to develop spiritually is to live simply, live quietly, study good books, never read cheap novels, practice calmness through control of the senses and emotions, and meditate much of the time. California, with its equable climate and natural endowments, is an ideal place to lead a simple life, and here will be a great spiritual resurgence. Right attitude toward wealth. People shy away from the idea of renunciation, yet they renounce so many things of true value, not the least of which are peace of mind and even sometimes their very lives, for the sake of money, which is perishable. Wealth may be taken away from you, or you may be taken away from it by death. You cannot take it with you. The only value of money is to do good for the well-being and true happiness of self and others. Those who think only of their own security and comforts, forgetful of others in need, are courting poverty, it will be forced upon them sometime. Those who cling selfishly to their wealth instead of doing good with it do not attract prosperity in their next life. They are born poor, but with all the desires of the wealthy. But those who share their good fortune attract wealth and abundance wherever they go. Jesus spoke of this principle when he said, "Sell all that thou hast, and distribute unto the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven." If you learn to share with others, you will see that God is ever with you, He will never leave you, and you will never go without. Depend upon Him, and He will look after you. Do not forget that your very life is directly sustained by the power of God. When you remember that your reason, will, and activity are dependent upon Him, you will be guided by God, and you will realize that your life is one with His infinite life. He who is motivated by selfish desires neglects his assigned role in helping the drama of God's creation. He who lives only for himself, creating webs of desires, becomes entangled in those webs. But he who acts and works for God is free. You do not know why you are here on earth, or why you are a man or a woman, or why you are the way you are. You are not here merely to have your own way. You are here to do God's will. To work for yourself is to be bound by life. To work for God is to be free. Learn to be very active in this world, doing constructive work, but when you are through with your duties, turn off your nervous motor. Retire to the center of your being, which is calmness. Mentally affirm to yourself, "I am calm. I am not a mere nervous mechanism, I am spirit. Though I dwell in this body, I am untouched by it." If you have a calm nervous system, you will have success in everything you undertake, and above all, you will succeed with God. The nervous system connects you to the world and to God. The nervous system has two duties. The nerves allow you to interact with the world, and as the yogis of ancient times discovered, the nerves also serve to connect you with God. The life force in man's body ordinarily flows outward from the brain and spine through the nerves to the senses and their external experiences. When in yoga meditation that energy is reversed to flow inward, it draws the consciousness to the subtle spiritual cerebrospinal centers of divine perception and God realization. Nervousness, the overstimulation of the nerves, ties the consciousness to the body. Calmness conduces to God communion. When you turn off external nervous energy and calm yourself in meditation, and the life force retires from the senses to the cerebrospinal centers of spiritual perception, your nervous system is then connected with superconsciousness, and you have God. You are in the land of light, which is beyond the subconscious realm of sleep. Sleep is an unconscious way of turning off life energy from the nerves. You therefore get some rest during slumber, but you do not have the conscious experience of bliss that the superconscious state produces. When you awaken from sleep, you are just the same as you were before sleep. But, if you can cross the subconscious realm into the superconscious land of light, you will have the most wonderful experiences, and these produce lasting spiritual changes in consciousness. The more you can remain in that interiorized state of bliss in meditation, the more you will feel that joy with you all the time, even in the midst of activities. The spiritual physiology that makes man unique. There is a spiritual physiology underlying the nervous system that makes man a unique vehicle for the highest stages of the evolution of consciousness. Man's brain, being larger than that of most animals, with the exception of the elephant and the whale, and being more complex, contains the greatest capacity for thought. This makes the human brain a proper instrument for man, whose consciousness is the most highly evolved of all creatures. Man alone is capable of advanced levels of discrimination, and ultimately, of God realization. The greater the amount of thought, for example, in man as contrasted with animals, the greater the complexity of the cerebral convolutions. The fissures of these convolutions are about 1 inch deep in the adult brain. The gray matter of the convoluted surface of the brain is where our sensory motor thought processes are lodged. In early stages of the developing fetus, the brain is more like a marble dome. The awareness and responses of the fetus increase with the developing complexity of the convolutions. The mind, the source of thought and discrimination, is a process of consciousness, not physiology. It triggers the physiology. Now, you will find very interesting how God has made this physical body. It is a deep and vast subject, so just a few points I will touch on. The gray matter on the surface of the brain is the receptacle of nerve impulses. This is where all the nerve cells and electrical vibrations are located. When you decide to move any part of your body, your hands, fingers, eyes, for example, this creates electrical impulses in the cells of the gray matter, which are transmitted through the motor nerves to the body part that you want to move. As that part moves, another electrical current is sent back to the brain via the sensory nerves. These electrical impulses stimulate the nerve cells in the gray matter, and more energy-giving oxygen is drawn from the blood vessels in the membranes surrounding the brain. An exercise that is very good to stimulate the energy in the brain is to rap the head gently, but firmly with the knuckles. This is especially helpful if done in the morning as you begin your day, or anytime you feel brain lag. The spiritual eye, epitome of creation. Underlying the gray matter in the brain is white matter, which is spoken of as passive. Construction of the brain has a correspondence with the single or spiritual eye in man. In fact, this eye of astral light, which can be seen in meditation, is an epitome of the creative energy and consciousness of which man's body is formed and by which it is enlivened. Jesus said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." The spiritual eye is perceived as a golden aura surrounding a sphere of blue, in the middle of which is a 5-pointed star of white light. When you look in a mirror at your 2 eyes, you see they are patterned after the spiritual eye, the outer aura or white of the eye, the inner circle or iris, and the central star or pupil. The point of origin of the single eye is in a subtle spiritual center in the medulla oblongata at the base of the brain, where it joins the spine. The energy from this single eye divides at the medulla and pours through the brain into the 2 physical eyes, through which the world of duality is perceived. Spiritual eye with its 3 lights, or 3 different rays, one within the other like an extending telescopic lens, has all-seeing spherical vision. Through the gold ray, the deeply meditating yogi beholds all matter, and the mass of radiation, the vibratory cosmic energy permeating the universe. Penetrating the blue light, the yogi will realize the Christ or Krishna consciousness, the Kutesa or infinite intelligence of God, the only begotten Son, or reflection of God, which is present in all creation. Piercing the tiny 5-pointed white star, the yogi experiences cosmic consciousness, the transcendent consciousness of God that underlies all creation, and that is also beyond the realms of manifestation in infinitude. The yogian cosmic consciousness perceives that all creation, including the microcosm of his body, is a projection of the 5-fold rays of God's cosmic consciousness. The divine Creator's cosmic consciousness, his pure reflected intelligence in creation as Christ or Krishna consciousness, and his active creative power as cosmic vibration are thus the very essence of all manifestations. Gold, blue, and white, the colors of the radiations of this holy trinity of God in creation, are therefore the most spiritual of all colors. White reflecting the transcendent God consciousness, blue reflecting the Christ or Krishna consciousness, and gold or red, a transformation of gold reflecting the radiation or energy present in the cosmos. Throughout history, man has instinctively associated white with purity and spirituality, blue with tranquil omnipresence, as in the blue sky or heavens, and gold or red with energy. How the intricate human body evolves from spirit. The colored rays of the spiritual eye, through a complex transformation known to yogis, form the physical body of man, the microcosm. The golden rays of cosmic energy, for example, are strongly inherent in the vital red blood and are manifested in the electric current that flows through the nerves. The blue rays are a predominant factor in the gray matter of the brain, which provides a medium for the expression of thoughts through sensory motor activity. Just as on the universal scale Christ consciousness provides the medium that upholds all of nature's activities. And the white rays are the predominant factor in the white matter of the brain, in which God's transcendent cosmic consciousness is insulated. The nerve tissues are cylindrical in form. If you see a diagram of the nervous system, it is like a web of projecting rays, pathways of electrical energy without which there is no life in the body. The underlying spiritual physiology relates to the projected thoughts of God. The first manifestation of God the Creator is thought, intelligence itself. When God began to think, the body of man, it produced tentacles of thought. A thought is a linear projection. These became rays. The rays became fibers, and the fibers became nerves through which energy is conducted throughout the nervous system to the 27,000 billion bodily cells. I became aware of these various corollaries as I read a little bit of physiology. God was showing me at the same time His deeper science. It is so interesting to see the marvelous evolution of complex matter from this singular consciousness of spirit. How intricate it is, and yet so simple when you see that everything is God. It is all upheld by the power of His thought. On a little piece of thought rests the cosmic lot. Color is important in your life. In the creation of the body of man, the rays of the spiritual eye first form the astral body, the rainbow-hued body of life energy that is the blueprint and enlivening power of the material body. Because the material body is a condensation of the multicolored rays of light of the life-giving astral body, color is important in your life. The point is, you are affected by color because colors are manifestations of specific vibrations. You should always try to wear and to surround yourself with colors that are harmonious to your nature. And for the reasons I have mentioned, gold, blue, and white are good for the nervous system. Of course, for a change you should use other colors as well. But generally it is good to have some of these particularly beneficial colors around you. You will find your nervous system will be much calmer. Though it is quite all right now and then, for variety to vary the colors you use, and that you feel harmonious with, radical changes can affect you. You wouldn't want to paint the rooms in your home black, for example. The best diet for the nerves. Even foods, which also are material condensations of astral rays of life, have effects that are correlated to their color. Various kinds of natural white foods are good for the nervous system. They benefit the white matter of the brain. Berries are good for the gray matter of the brain, that is, blueberries or blackberries, which are really purple. Most fruits are golden color or variants of gold, such as red and orange. As gold is the color of the creative vibratory energy in matter, such fruits help the muscles, the blood, and the tissues. Goat's milk, unbleached almonds, and raisins are very good for the nervous system. But all forms of meat of higher animals, especially beef and pork, are harmful to the nervous system. They are hyperstimulating and cause aggressiveness. Avoid too much starch, especially foods made from refined flour. Eat whole grains, cottage cheese, and plenty of fruits, fruit juices, and fresh vegetables. These are important. Needless to say, alcoholic beverages and drugs destroy the nervous system. Stay away from them. A yogic drink that is very good for the nervous system is made by adding crushed rock candy and fresh lime juice to a glass of water. It should be thoroughly mixed and evenly blended so that the taste is equally sweet and sour. I have recommended this to many people with excellent results. Another beneficial practice when you are very nervous is to take a cold bath. I once told this to a newspaperman. He said, "Well, if I did that every time I was nervous, I would have to carry a bathtub with me all the time." I said, "Not necessary. Take a large piece of ice and rub it all over the body, especially over all the openings of the body. With this yoga technique, you will find that your nerves will become much calmer." Attunement with God, greatest cure for nervousness. Remember that the greatest healing of nervousness takes place when we attune our lives to God. The highest commandments given to man are to love God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength, and secondly, to love your neighbor as yourself. If you follow these, everything will come in its own way, and in the right way. It is not enough just to be a strict moralist. Stones and goats do not break moral laws. Still, they do not know God. But when you love God deeply enough, even if you are the greatest of sinners, you will be transformed and redeemed. The great Saint Mirabai said, "To find the Divine One, the only indispensable is love." That truth touched me deeply. All the prophets observe these two foremost commandments. Loving God with all your heart means to love Him with the love that you feel for the person who is dearest to you, with the love of the mother or father for the child, or the lover for the beloved. Give that kind of unconditional love to God. Loving God with all your soul means you can truly love Him when through deep meditation you know yourself as a soul, a child of God, made in His image. Loving God with all your mind means that when you are praying, your whole attention is on Him, not distracted by restless thoughts. In meditation, think only of God. Don't let the mind wander to everything else but God. That is why yoga is important. It enables you to concentrate. When by yoga you withdraw the restless life force from the sense nerves and become interiorized in the thought of God, then you are loving Him with all of your strength. The whole of your being is concentrated in Him. Live like a god and you will attract godly friends. Lastly, learn to love your neighbor as yourself. Remember, you are here on earth in this lifetime for just a little while. You have come here before numerous incarnations, interacting with many different souls. Who are your real relatives? To the wise man, everyone is his relative, everyone is his neighbor. Of course, the wise man discriminates, knowing that though the sun shines equally on the diamond and the charcoal, it is the diamond that beautifully reflects the sunlight. One should seek and associate with the highest diamond-like mentalities. Take time to find true friends. Good souls attract good souls. Live like gods and you will attract godly friends. Live like animals on the sensual plane and you will attract animalistic companions. Do not mix closely with those who lower your ideals and create materialistic nervousness in you, but at the same time do not exclude anyone from your love. In addition, be not only a giver of love, but also a peacemaker, that wherever you go you bring harmony, calmness, and upliftment. No one wants to be around a skunk, everyone avoids it. The nervous man, he who is always restless, irritable, emotional, similarly repulses others. We do not want to be human skunks. We want to be like the rose, which even if crushed exudes its sweet fragrance. Be a human rose, spreading the essence of peace wherever you go. Kriya Yoga gives the true experience of religion. Your life will reflect spiritual consciousness if you meditate. Since the publication of my book Autobiography of a Yogi, everyone is asking about Kriya Yoga. That is my purpose. I didn't come to give theological abstractions, but a technique whereby those who are sincere can truly know God, not just theorize about him. I want you all to develop on this path of self-realization and draw others to this highway of Kriya Yoga. The practice of Kriya gives the true experience of religion, which cannot be had by just talking about God. Jesus said, "Why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say?" When by Kriya Yoga I open my spiritual eye, the whole world drops away from my consciousness, and God is with me. And why not? I am His child. Saint Ignatius said, "God seeks willing hearts that He may give His bounties to them. That is most beautiful, and that is what I believe." God seeks willing hearts for the bestowal of His gifts. He is willing to give us everything, but we are not willing to make the effort to be receptive. He looks in our hearts, and if they are filled with something else, He does not come. But when you can truthfully say to Him, "Lord, there is nothing in my heart but Thee," He will come. For a while He will play hide and seek with you, but if you are persistent, you will begin to see wonderful things happening mysteriously that you know come from God. In time, you will receive His clear response in the form of direct answers to your prayers or in visions of the saints. Then at last He will come to you openly. You will be able to talk to Him. You will be able to commune with Him. Nervousness will never again be able to touch you once you are permanently anchored in the realization of God's presence. Chapter: What is truth? Truth is a very ambiguous word. It is a difficult concept to explain. Everyone has convictions they swear to as truth. But, among countless differing ideas, what is really true? Truth is relative and truth is absolute. It passes through many evolutions in the relative stages before it reaches the absolute state. For example, two people are discussing a business venture. One makes a proposal that is sure to bring success, and the other person makes a counter-proposal that accomplishes the same goal, but has additional advantages. But then a third person comes along and has an even better idea. Each method was true in its own right, but in a relative sense. Truth is that which gives permanent happiness. In the absolute sense, anything that contradicts true happiness is untruth, and that which gives permanent happiness is truth. Permanent happiness refers not to the temporary thrill that comes with material success and pleasure, but to the joy found in the soul's attunement with God. By this standard, you can judge any action you perform as to its projected end result, whether or not that action will promote lasting happiness. The ultimate truth is God, and God is the ultimate truth. The universe is upheld by this truth through the operation of the Lord's cosmic laws. These laws are basic truths that are eternal and not subject to man's manipulation. For instance, the absolute truth is that since God is templed in every creature, it is wrong to kill or to harm another. In the relative sense, however, the lesser of two evils may be to use force to protect the innocent from an evil person, or to kill a lower form of life to save a higher form of life. But to destroy anything just for the sake of killing is wrong. The universal law is unity through love, necessitating the practice of tolerance and amity. If you want to find truth, your thoughts and actions must be true, physically, morally, and spiritually in accord with the eternal divine principles. Truth is the ultimate substance. Let me first explain where the presence of that substance is to be found. Everything is linked with cosmic intelligence: the tree, the sky, a bird, man. That link is called substance, the essential nature of all phenomena. It is the connecting link that makes of all manifestations one essence. This substance or truth is hidden. What you see are only phenomenal appearances arising out of substance by the power of cosmic delusion or Maya. The three ways of arriving at truth. Now, there are three ways of arriving at truth: through sense perception, through inference, and through intuition. If your sense perception is wrong, your inference is wrong. Looking at the horizon, you may think there is a fire because you see smoke, but as you approach the site, you find it was just a cloud of dust. In order to apprehend the truth of anything, you depend on your sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch, plus the power of the mind. These, however, could not be ultimate proof of the truth, because if the senses lie, the mind will lie. Your mind draws its conclusions from what the senses perceive, and the senses are extremely limited. Jesus therefore conveyed truth to the masses in parables because they see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. The ears are tuned only to certain rates of vibration. The highest and lowest sounds your ears cannot catch. If the power of your hearing were sufficiently increased, you would hear the magnificent sound that the universe is making as it rolls along through space. Everything is in motion, and that motion is accompanied by sound. Nothing is at rest except in that transcendental sphere of spirit where there is no vibration. Right within your body, you can hear those vibratory sounds of creation, manifestations of the omnipresent Amen. But being of a higher rate of vibration, those finer sounds are audible only to your astral ear, the subtle power that provides the gross sense of hearing to your physical body. Similarly, if the power of your eyes were increased, you would see all kinds of different lights. Your physical eyes show you only a very limited scope of light, but your spiritual astral eye sees the true nature of all things as images composed of God's creative light. Your whole body, which you perceive as solid flesh, is nothing but electromagnetic waves. Dr. Kreil has shown that the brain of a dead calf, and also that of a dead human being, emanates a great amount of electric rays. Ordinarily, when you close your eyes, you see only darkness, but with spiritual development, you will see wondrous lights. The Bible says, "The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not." These are fundamental truths that you do not perceive because your senses are all tuned only to a limited range of certain gross vibrations. Intuition, all-knowing power of the soul. So how are you going to find the truth, the reality that lies behind what the senses perceive? You cannot do it by your rationalizing mind, because your mind falls victim to the senses. It only infers about what the senses tell it. The mind therefore does not comprehend the infinite forces that are dancing all around. Only by the development of intuition can you know what is truth. Intuition is direct perception. It is the all-knowing pure comprehension of the soul. You have an inkling of the nature of intuition through those unexplained feelings called hunches. A hunch is undeveloped intuition, something you know without the medium of the senses or inference, some truth that comes of itself. You may be sitting quietly, and for no reason you think of someone you haven't seen or had contact with for a long time, and then suddenly he arrives, or you hear from him. Now, how did you know? It was through a momentary flash of intuition. That kind of spontaneous intuition all of you have had at some time. Errors in judgment are a result of not having developed intuition. Most of you have had the feeling that you could be great and do great things, but because you have lacked intuitive power, that potential has for the most part remained dormant. To progress and to avoid the misery of mistakes, you have to find what is the truth in everything. This is possible only if you develop your intuition. That is the practical truth of the matter. That is why I am asking you to cultivate and use intuitive power in everything. In your relationships with others, in your business, in your married life, in every part of your life, intuition is essential. By not developing the faculty of intuition, you make wrong decisions, pick up the wrong business associates, and get caught up in wrong personal relationships. Since the judgment of your mind is conditioned by the information fed to it by the senses, if your senses become diluted, you may think a person is wonderful without knowing what he truly is inside. You may think you have found your soul mate, so you enter into matrimony, and then end up in the divorce court. But intuition will never make such a mistake. It will not look at the magnetic power of the eyes or at the attractive face or personality of a person, but will feel and perceive accurately in the heart what that person is really like. By the power of intuition, which I learned to develop from my guru, Sri Yukteswarji, I have never made a mistake about human nature. Intuition has been very helpful to me in that regard. But I do not try to see the wrong side of people. To help others, I give them unconditional love, even when I know they may misuse my trust. Many people, lacking intuition, put a lot of money into financial prospects that do not produce anything, and consequently they lose everything. I have been successful in every decision I have made through intuitive power. It never fails. As you develop, intuition comes as a certain feeling or a still voice. Because ladies are more receptive to feeling than are men, they usually have more intuition, except when they become emotional. Men are generally ruled more by reason than by feeling, but if they have fine intelligence balanced with feeling, that leads to intuition. Through intuition, know the purpose of your existence. If you use your intuition, you will know the very purpose for which you exist in this world, and when you find that, you find happiness. This earth is a stage, and God is the stage manager. If everyone insisted on being kings and queens, an unfolding drama would be impossible. The servant and the hero as well as the royalty must perform their parts well for the play to become successful. The villains are those who upset the righteous drama of the Lord. Those who choose such a role must pay dearly for their blundering disregard of divine direction. No matter what material position one possesses or fortune one has amassed, he cannot be called successful if it was gained by evil means. True happiness is possible only if one plays his part rightly, and not otherwise. The one who is playing the millionaire, and the one who is playing the role of a small businessman, both are the same to God. On the last day, God shears every person of all possessions and titles. What you have acquired in your soul is all that you take with you. Great ones like Jesus know truth because of their intuitive power. They perceive not only through the eyes and the mind, but through intuition that is so developed that they know everything. Jesus, who lived such a pure life, knew he would nevertheless be betrayed and crucified. But he knew also he would be ultimately in the arms of immortal God. So are we all the children of God sent here to play our part. It is not the part, but how we play it that concerns God. Never be discouraged when your role is difficult. When you will be through with your acting, you will be received as a child of God. Until then, you will not be wholly free. Intuition develops through meditation. The only way to know and to live in truth is to develop the power of intuition. Then you will see that life has a meaning and that no matter what you are doing, the inner voice is guiding you. That voice has long been drowned in the mire of untrue thoughts. The surest way to liberate the expression of intuition is by meditation, early in the morning and before going to bed at night. As you keep your engagements for business, and for everything else that you think of as important, so should you not forget your engagement with God. You may think you are too busy, but suppose God were too busy to give you life. You would drop in your tracks. To keep your daily appointment with God, you must reserve the time for Him. Meditate and pray deeply and wait for His response. If you repeatedly call on Him with ever deeper concentration, He will answer your prayer. A joy and peace will strike your heart. When that comes, you know that you are communing with God. If you make the effort, you shall contact that power. Give yourself that opportunity. You cannot succeed unless you try. If you spend your life in constant excitement, you will never know true happiness. Live simply and take life more easily. Happiness lies in giving yourself time to think and to introspect. Be alone once in a while and remain more in silence. If the radio is going all the time or other stimuli are constantly bombarding the senses, it truly affects the nerves and creates nervousness. And don't think so much about reforming others. Reform yourself first. The greatest field of victory is your own home. If you are an angel at home, you can be an angel everywhere. The sweetness of your voice, the peace of your behavior is needed in your own household more than anywhere else. Attain the power that never fails. When you contact God, intuitive perception of truth will guide you in everything you do. 7 years ago I came in a house car to this site overlooking